There we go. So cool. So essentially, we're going to do like a informal. You could tell your story. I'll kind of uh, ask questions and things like that. But whatever, this is about you and what you have to say and what your journey was like and what you've learned from it. So why don't you start off by telling us who you are and when you went to DVC?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Ala Mohktabad, and I started DVC in the summer of 2022. Um, it was really interesting. I'm actually kind of an untraditional student. So I graduated high school 2 years early because I took my GED, and I was told a lot when I did that it was going to be like an awful mistake because I wouldn't get in anywhere for a transfer. But I go to UC Berkeley now. So I, yeah.
Well, tell me. Let's back up a little bit. So already you've got me really interested in what's going on, and and again, see, this is where your story is way more interesting than mine. Is so go back. So like where did you come from? Where did you grow up, and where did you go to high school at?
Yeah, so I'm a first generation immigrant. I grew up originally in a small village called Amory. I have two last names. So my first last name is Mokhtabad, the second one is Amory, and that's like the village I was born in. And I came to the United States when I was 8 years old, and I didn't speak English very well. So I got held back 1 year then as well. But when we moved to Walnut Creek, I went to Northgate High School.
Oh,
And yeah, it's a very common high school in this like area. I feel like there's probably a lot of new students coming in from there. And yeah,
well, cool. Now, Amory, how do you spell that?
Amrei.
And where is that, Amory?
It's like a small little rural village, and it's like a really interesting thing. I didn't even know what the history behind like my last names were until I was told it. Mokhtabad literally means cow herder. So my family lineage comes from cow herding in a village essentially. So
Actual working people.
yeah, so it's really cool to be seeing how it's like turned out throughout time.
Well, and it's kind of like people now, their last name is Smith, and most people they haven't, they got to
Yeah.
go back 4 generations at least or 5 generations for anybody that swung a hammer. So
Right.
so you came here, you're 8 years old, you ended up at Northgate, which by the way, that's probably one of the best high schools in the Mount Diablo Unified School District. Academically, a friend of mine did a study some years ago, and she said that's the standard that all the schools should be at for the Mount Diablo Unified for the public schools. So it's a very good school. And so back up a little bit more. So you decided to graduate 2 years early. What was the decision process on that?
Um, so this is actually really funny. It was a little bit impulsive, but at the same time, I did a lot of research on it. I wasn't really a fan of like the American high school education system. I just don't really think it transitions nicely into what the real world looks like, and it just wasn't something that worked out for me. It works out for a lot of other people, but for me, I was like, I'm at a stage where I feel like I could benefit more if I was just like put straight into college. And I knew people who were doing like dual enrollment, and I didn't really want to do that due to like time commitment. So I just wanted to get my GED and go straight into like community college.
And how was that transition going from Northgate to you did your GED and then you ended up here at DVC and how was that transition?
You know what helped me a lot actually was I met up with a counselor as soon as I got my GED. I dropped out because that's what you do in America. It's really funky. You sign up a paper that says, "Yeah, I'm dropping out of high school," but I had my GED, and then I made an appointment with an academic counselor at DVC, and she saw me, and I kind of wanted to understand what it's like to take classes. And I think any DVC student and any community college student will say that the most difficult part of community college is understanding IGETC and what classes you're supposed to take. it takes a hot minute to get it. But what really helped me was just like immediately jumping in, getting like a counseling session and taking like summer classes because that gave
Mhm.
me like a vibe. Yeah.
And so you get here, it's obviously a much bigger community than high school was. And how did you feel? Did you feel like you integrated in pretty quickly, or did it take a while to kind of like settle in? Or I mean, you're at UC Berkeley now, and I have a daughter that went to UC Berkeley, and it's to say it's bigger than DVC is an understatement. But when you went from high school to DVC, the social, the social part of it, did you find that to be an easy transition, or did it take a minute?
I found community college social life to be easier than high school. I think in high school there's a lot of cliques, and I'm sure there's still cliques when it comes to community college, but what I noticed with community college students for the most part is they really just want to finish their time here successfully just to transition. So no one will take the time out to necessarily bully anybody and no one will, you know? So I really like that. Like I never experienced any mean remarks from any student. And for the most part, if you wanted to hang out with people, they'd be like, sure. But I think the one thing about making friends at DVC that was difficult is it's like as soon as class ended, people just teleported back home. And that was hard because it's like I want to make friends. And the way I did that was I'm a biology major, so
Hmm.
I would go to the science and health center and I just sit there and I would make friends. So um it's definitely a little bit tough to make friends because you're not in like this atmosphere of like, oh, I'm forced to have lunch every day at the same time, so I have to find friends. No, it's not like that. And like, I really appreciated that because I felt like that's how it's like in the real world.
Hmm. So when you were here, what would you say like was your, so when you first got here, what was the vibe like when you first got here? I mean, so first of all, you are much more measured and thoughtful about what you're doing moving forward than most people your age. I mean, I'll say you're more thoughtful than I was even at my age now. So, uh, but you put some thought into this. So when you got here, what was it like? Was it intimidating, or a bit much, or what was that like?
Um, I think I would say that on a point of view from like a biology major, it was really difficult because I wanted to graduate in 2 years. So automatically I had counselors telling me that I can't do that and like it takes 2.5 or 3 years. So I was like, but I really want to like finish it up in like 2 years, you know? And kind of like in the back of my mind, I had this thing where I was like, it wasn't necessary, but it's kind of like this imposter syndrome of like, oh, I like graduated 2 years early from high school, but I want to graduate at the same time as my high school peers did. It's really funky. So I felt like I was kind of in this tight little spot where I needed to really like be focused on what I was doing. And like I remember there were a lot of all-nighters that I pulled, and a lot of times like my summers and winters were classes all the time. But then like when you're transferring, you also have to have like community involvement and
Hmm.
volunteering. So
So what other community involvement did you do while you were here?
I did quite a bit at DBC, to be honest. I worked as a DSS intern, so I was scribing and proctoring during like the examinations that they had. They also did like rotations where I got to like see what it's like in different aspects of the disability support services at DBC. So I got to see like how the counselors work, what it is in like the testing facility, front desk, as well as their tech lab that they have. I also worked as a chemistry and biology tutor, which was really fun because it got to like test my skills. There was one semester where I was working 3 jobs, so it was cool. Yeah, I really liked it, and I think what's really nice about on-campus jobs is they're very respectful of like your time commitment and they understand that you're a student. So whenever students ask me like what do you recommend I do is get an on-campus job. Yeah.
Yeah, my youngest one, she did work study, and she went to a college down in Southern California, a little Christian college. Um, but yeah, it for her it was great. You know, it was really a good experience. So what would you say was your favorite thing? What's your favorite memory about DVC? I mean, it sounds like you were all work and no play, but I imagine that's not quite it.
Yeah, no, I had an amazing friend group that I made because I was like with the same group of people from biology and like chemistry for like around like a year and a half. So I made a really good amount of friends. And I remember I have a lot of memories to be honest, and a lot of them come like the night before like an exam. We would all go to one of my friends' houses, and specifically for like biology or bio 131, we had to like memorize a lot of like scientific names. And there's something that I think about very like frequently, to be honest, is we would try to make these names sound funny so that we would remember it. And I came up with one, and I don't even know what the actual scientific name for it is, but I just remember saying, "Oh, rich people eat shark thighs." And that was something that we all like remembered.
But you
But
don't remember what it was for now. So
I don't know what it was for at all. But I also remember like the old crow's nest at DVC, the one that,
yeah.
yeah, that was really good. I think I tried their food last semester and I was like, oh my God, what happened to the orange chicken? What happened to all of this? And yeah, those were my fondest memory that I have. There was also a time in organic chemistry when we had like a lot of like gas in like a room, so we had to stand outside for a long time. These are things that I remember a lot just because it was funny in the moment. But yeah.
So well, it sounds like you've had some really great experiences here at DVC, and they're still pretty fresh. So you're now at Berkeley. What was it like transitioning from DVC to Berkeley? What did that process look like?
Well, to start off with, I think it's really like it's like a time crunch because you have like maybe like a good month or so to start applying into these like programs to be involved with Berkeley. And like I still feel that pressure. So it's always in the back of my mind. I applied for something called the UC Berkeley Miller Scholars, and it's specifically for transfer students, and it allows them to be involved with like a research project for a year, and the second year they provide you with like mentorship to find like a job after you graduate or applications with grad school or medical school. So that was like a lot. For me personally, when I think about like the transition state from community college into a four-year university, I'm constantly thinking like, okay, I have to make like a community for myself because that's really important. Because you know, like as much as you could be like a lone wolf and do your own thing and be in your own bubble, it gets to you if you're like alone. So it's really important to have that community of people. And for me, it was I need to find other transfer students just because I felt like that would help me a lot. So
Hmm.
I joined like the Miller Scholars. I joined BISP, which is Biology Scholars Program, um, as well as like just cold emailing a bunch of like labs to see if I could work there, which most of them never replied because that's how it is in the real
Yes.
world. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So so you've been how long you've been at UC Berkeley now?
this is my first semester. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. So you're fresh there then.
I am fresh.
Okay. Remind me at the end. I actually would love to introduce you. So I have a friend of mine, a good friend of mine who works at Lawrence Berkeley, and he's a biological scientist, and they're running a whole bunch of just amazing. He started explaining to me, and I don't understand. You know, I'm not a biologist, so it's like you know, but the stuff that he's talking about is just absolutely amazing. And if you'd like, I could introduce, if you'd just like to have a chat with him.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
he is such a terrific guy. And he's been in the field for quite some years. So it's just, you know, the stuff that they're doing is really, really cutting edge. It's kind of like it's ways to reclaim. Um, uh, uh, I don't know. He explained. So, anyways, sorry, I got off track.
You're
So
all good.
remind me of that when we're
Yeah,
done, please,
absolutely.
because I he would love to, and he's very, very kind with his time, and he loves talking to people that are new to the field, and especially talking to them
Oh,
about things that they can do. Um, so you transferred there where you found one of the biggest things was creating a community, and you're brand new at this. If you had to go back and do it again, what would be like maybe a couple pieces of advice you'd give yourself? Because hindsight is always good to have, and maybe you can help out the next person with that.
yeah. So do you mean like the process of transitioning from
And
DVC?
what did you find like if you had to do it again, all the way going back to when you were in high school? I mean, frankly, I think that you're very inspirational, and but if you had to do it again, what are a couple of things that maybe you would have done a little different or would have emphasized more or something like that?
I think I would have definitely tried to see what like field of biology I'm interested in because you can like transfer as like a bio major and change it into a different bio major when you're here, but it's just a little more difficult.
Hmm.
I think when we're in community college, we definitely have like less time to focus into what it's like afterwards. And that's completely fair because that's not community college's job. That's the 4 year. But I think definitely looking into understanding the system here more would have been like incredible. In terms of like transferring from high school into like community college, I would say I felt like I did a pretty good job at it, but if there's anything I would have changed, it would have been to not stress out as much and to definitely go to every office hour. Even if you don't have questions, I just feel like so I got a lot of scholarships, so I'm not paying like anything
Oh,
in my
good.
yeah, so it's great. And I don't think I would have gotten a single one if I never went to office hour because every single professor I had gone to office hours with wrote incredible like letters of rec for me. And that's something that I'm like forever grateful for. And I think especially this is like a huge advice to community college students because it's so much easier to make a connection with a professor in community college than it is in a 4 year university. Like
Yep.
they'll never know your name here at a 4 year university. They barely check their emails. They have so much going on, but you are in such a special spot to be in these classes with like maybe a maximum of like 50 people and this professor like even calls on your name when you raise your hand. So that's like the biggest piece of advice is to just really be connected with your professors because those are people that will really help you.
I think that's absolutely, I've heard that from a bunch of folks is that, take it, go to office hours, even if you don't need it, go to office hours. So when you were you getting scholarships for here at DVC and also at UC Berkeley, or um, what did you end up doing?
So the reason why I really wanted to do the whole like 2 year graduation thing was because DVC has like a first 2 years free program and I didn't want to pay beyond that. So I got my first 2 years for free at DVC. And during my time at DVC, I would literally pull like all-nighters applying to scholarships at DVC for transfer. And to me, I thought that was a great investment, and it really was. Because I don't have to pay anything now. And it's like a huge thing. I think especially for first generation individuals and like low income households, it's a big deal to be able to just not have to worry about the financials. Like seriously.
Oh, absolutely. So how did you find out about the 2 years free program?
I worked in FYE, and I think one of the things that I would always tell my students was, like the first 2 years here are free, and I would make sure that each of them would like try to see if they qualify. Because my biggest thing as like a peer advisor was I wanted them to like not have to pay during
Hmm.
their time here and to be connected to as many resources as possible. So those were like words that would be out of my mouth every time I met with a student. Like that was like new to DVC specifically.
So FYE, can you tell me what that is? Because
Yeah, so FYE is first year education at DVC. It's an incredible program, and it creates this like sense of community for students in their first year. So your first semester is going to be with people, and so is the second semester. So you get to have these familiar faces around you, and you get to kind of create a community for yourself. And I personally was not in FYA, but if I was to redo it, I would totally do that. Just because I feel like it would give you the sense of like connection, especially
Mhm.
since people want to make friends. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And we are as a species very tribal, and it's my opinion that when we lean into that, is when we really can, we can really take advantage of that. Is just that, is like make those connections with other humans, because on our own we don't do all that well. So, um, you sound like you've been amazingly resourceful in finding the resources that you need to get through all this. Um, what does the next bit look like for you? What do you think? What do you think the next 2 years or 4 years involved for you look like? And not that we're prognosticating or assuming that this is, and I'm going to hold you to it. And you said, but just, I mean, what do you see like out there for you besides grinding in school and things like that?
I really like research. So
Hmm.
in my future, I'm really considering to go into an MD PhD route, which is like an 8-year program where you're combining a PhD and MD. So I specifically really like neonatal like research, so with like infants as well as like OBGYN and neurology. So in the next 2 years, hopefully, I would have applied into an MD PhD program and gotten into one. But it's really exciting because I was actually just telling this to some of my friends where I feel like I just entered this new chapter of my life, and now I'm starting to get ready for the next chapter.
Hmm.
Just like a little warning to students in DVC still, like it happens fast. Like
It does. It
it
does.
happens so fast. It's crazy. Like I'm already studying for my MCAT. Like it's yeah. So
As well as
yeah,
taking your class load and all the other things that you
yeah.
have to do. Well, that is very exciting. I can't thank you enough for all the time that you spent with me here. I mean, it's hadn't been that long, and I think you have an amazing story.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to encourage you to join the platform. We have a couple of events coming up in October, and then in the springtime, one of the things I just was busy talking to one of the club presidents, and we're probably going to do a thing with some of the clubs here on campus, and I'll certainly, especially if you join the alumni association, you'll see updates on that. And so, if you can carve out a little bit of time out of your obviously incredibly busy schedule, would love to have you come and say hi and stuff like that. And because one of the things I want the alumni such as you to be able to do is encourage folks that are maybe just coming in or have just started and aren't really sure about what direction they're going. It's like, hey, look, here's somebody that's done it this far, and I'm hoping to get some other alumni to show up too. They're folks like you are certainly bright, shiny stars for all of us. So,
Oh, that's so happy to
so
hear.
well, I'm excited. Is there anything else you want to pass along, or?
Yeah, all I have to say is really enjoy your time at DVC. Just that little website that DVC has, it may not be like super appealing with its bright green color, but it has so many resources. You type in anything like research, internship, jobs, or MESA or resources for students, it will all pop up. And the best wise words that I got when I was at DVC was like, even if you think you don't qualify, still apply.
Mhm.
People still take me in when I don't qualify for something. And it may be because you have a unique story. So don't close that door just because you think you don't qualify to be in a certain position. So just apply. That's the best you can do.
I think that's a great piece of wisdom. And yeah, the answer to the unasked question is always no. And oftentimes, if you ask, the answer may be yes. So, well, again, I thank you so much for your time. I will do an email introduction with you oh, I'm telling you, I'll remember when we get off of this. But again, he's a really, really good friend of mine, and he will be happy to take some time out and talk to you about the kind of research he's doing and just kind of what it looks like and what his experience was. He went to the University of Florida and got his
Oh,
doctorate there.
wow.
So, yeah, he's a smart guy. And so,
I'm not doubting it at all. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, and I look forward to it, and I wish you all the best. And I will keep you up to date on stuff, and hopefully we get a chance to, as you continue to move along, continue to update your story. I think it's very exciting.
Thank you.
All
I look
right.
forward to your email.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll send it out here in a few minutes.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Oh.